Stick with me, this man just awakened the rare power to control the desert's shifting sand. This power could shred a massive sandworm in seconds. But the system? It ranked Zayn at the very bottom, just a worthless F-class loser with zero potential. Zayn knew better. He felt a power flowing through him that no rank could ever measure. If he kept evolving, he'd eventually rule this entire wasteland. His confidence wasn't just ego, it was common sense. Look at the world, it is literally nothing but sand. Centuries ago, a weird light erased everything on Earth. Our green planet died that day, transforming into an endless, brutal desert that never sleeps. Now, humanity clings to survival inside handcrafted shelters, the only places where death isn't waiting. Out there, underneath the dunes, millions of hungry sandworms are just waiting for a vibration. Zayn couldn't help but wonder if the world was going to be destroyed. Why leave these damn worms behind? Suddenly, a hand slams him against the metal bus wall. A thug grins at him and says, "Hey kid, sorry about that. My hand slipped. Give me your name so I can apologize to your face properly." Everyone who boarded this mining bus shared one dark secret. Not a single one of them was actually a real miner. They were all killers. Now check this out before the man can even guess his crime. Zayn answers by smashing a heavy fist straight into his face. Zayn was a killer. He had zero reason to start playing nice with anyone now. In New Seoul, only the strong are considered human. To Zayn, the guy he killed wasn't even a person. He just put down a common rat who made the mistake of stealing from him. But he never expected that rat's older brother to be an awakened. When Zayn heard the news, a cold chill ran down his spine in pure, terrified disbelief. If the strong are human, then the awakened are gods walking among the ruins of Earth. And Zayn? He was a lowly rat who had just offended one of those gods. To stay alive, he had no choice but to hide on this bus heading for the mines. Yet Zayn still keeps attacking this arrogant, loudmouth man. Suddenly, the bully's eyes glow a demonic red. Zayn realizes he just made a massive, life-threatening mistake. An invisible force slams him through the air before he can move. Once again, Zayn has crossed paths with another awakened monster he simply cannot defeat. This bus was full of criminals, and one was a literal god. Before the awakened can strike, the desert attacks first. A wave of quicksand flips the entire bus over like it was a toy. Outside, a giant toothy maw opens wide, ready to swallow the entire bus in one go. The bus instantly falls into chaos as everyone desperately tries to rush outside and escape. Zayn is dragged down into the darkness. He claws at the sand, but the desert won't let go. Looking back, whether he was facing an awakened god or a hungry monster, Zayn realized he had never been strong enough to truly fight back. That is the only rule in this hellscape. The strong survive, and the weak are just food. If he dies here, it is only because he was too weak. Total darkness takes him as his body sinks deep under the crushing weight of the sand. Pay attention here, as Zayn sinks, a single drop of blood falls from his shattered finger onto the shifting sand. Suddenly, the crushing sand begins to swirl. It is moving like it has a mind of its own. Zayn wakes up screaming. The pressure is gone, and the sand is pulled back to reveal his body. At that moment, agonizing pain ripples through his nerves as ghostly visions of ruined buildings and cities swallowed by dust flash before his very eyes. Dust swallows the world in his mind, giving Zayn the feeling he can control everything. His shattered finger has miraculously healed back to normal. Sand erupts from his wound like a spear, punching a hole through the worm. Zayn drags his exhausted body out through the gap, gasping for air. Zayn crawls out. He can feel every cell in his body vibrating with life. Is this the legendary awakening? He feels unstoppable, but the nightmare is far from over. That massive sandworm is still alive and hunting him down. The beast turns on him. It unhinges its massive jaws, determined to finish its meal this time. Zayn doesn't run. He smiles. He is going to use this massive beast to test out his new and terrifying strength. But then, a mysterious stranger steps out from the dust and stands in his path. The man grabs Zayn's face and tosses him aside like trash. This sudden, unprovoked attack fills Zayn with a burning, white-hot rage. He scrambles back to his feet, ready to fight, but then he sees something truly impossible. In a flash, the man buries a blade into the beast's skull. Trust me, you're not ready for what happens next. Alright. You and I are about to watch Zayn's world get flipped by one casual, lightning-fast strike that decapitates a massive monster instantly. Zayn had never seen anything that insane before. A blue-haired girl suddenly walks up to Zayn, explaining that the man is their captain, Jang Yongbum. He is always this blindingly fast when dealing with monsters. Zayn is stunned by her arrival too, sensing a power from her that far exceeds her appearance. In that split second of contact earlier, his arm had already started freezing solid. After the fight ends, Jang Yongbum shrugs it off, saying sandworms are actually easy to handle. Seeing the girl still gripping Zayn's hand, the captain can only let out a helpless sigh. But when Zayn tries to pull away, she trips him right onto the burning sand. Suddenly, Zayn is pinned hard against the desert ground by that mysterious girl. She rips aside the bandages on his arm, desperate to check his rank and ability. Now pay attention here, the girl freezes on the spot. There is no rank insignia at all. In her eyes, Zayn is just a normal human. Zayn is speechless. Is this woman blind? He knows he awakened, so how could he not have a rank insignia? Just then, the rest of the squad arrives in a vehicle, warning that the sun is setting and they have to move. One member asks the captain what to do. If they leave him here, the kid is definitely dead. Jang Yongbum looks at Zayn and sighs. The guy is pitiful enough. Just toss him into the back of the vehicle. He was probably heading to the mine anyway. Soon, the armored truck carries Zayn toward his fate. Inside, the squad grumbles about their captain always running off alone into dangerous territory, especially since they already told him sunset was coming and it was dangerous outside. Meanwhile, Zayn is tossed in the back, quietly listening to their conversation. Suddenly, the sand right in front of him begins to spin and slowly float into the air. After using his power a few times, Zayn is gradually starting to understand how the sand moves. Watching the sand obey his every thought, Zayn is now certain he has truly awakened some kind of ability. But he still cannot understand why everyone keeps saying they cannot see his rank mark. Thinking about it now, the color was really different. It was almost exactly like sand. Apparently, rank insignia colors change depending on the awakened. For magic types, the mark is blue, just like that blue-haired girl's. The captain's mark was likely red. Besides combat types, there were supposedly other rare kinds of awakened as well. You saw that power too, right? Yet his rank mark shows F class. The absolute bottom of the barrel, but Zayn can feel it. This power has limitless potential, as vast as the desert itself. He cannot stop himself from laughing. Zayn will wait patiently until this power is completely under his control, but for now, he has to keep his true abilities hidden from the rest of the world. Eventually, the entire desert, and maybe the whole world, will become his personal stage. Before long, the squad brings Zayn to their final destination. This is the Mana Crystal Mine. The checkpoint up ahead looks normal, at least for now. Zayn asks a squad member to untie him, but the man flatly refuses. With no other choice, Zayn follows him forward. But meanwhile, Captain Jang Yongbum is starting to find the boy deeply suspicious. Out of that entire group, he was the only survivor. The captain is certain it was no coincidence. He saw a wound on that sandworm's corpse that was clearly made by human hands. He has a feeling they will meet again. Soon after, Zayn is led deep into the mine. He never expected the place to be this lively, filled with everything imaginable. It looks less like a mine and more like an entire underground city. The man uses his gun to break Zayn's bonds, telling him to stay quiet and wait for the supervisor. Zayn asks if he is just being left here. The man snaps back, asking what else he wants. Maybe a bullet in the head instead? Zayn asks how they know he won't cause trouble. The man answers coldly that he won't be able to stir up trouble anyway. Since that's the case, Zayn is hungry and decides to find somewhere to eat. Before long, he arrives in front of a barbecue stall right in the city center. A slogan behind the stall reads, "Work hard together and light up New Soul." The owner smiles at the motto, but Zayn finds it kind of funny. Technically speaking, New Soul's real energy source isn't mana crystals at all. The owner is confused. If it isn't crystals, then what powers the city? Zayn's answer? Rats just like me. And trust me, you and I are about to see just how dark this gets. Alright, you and I are about to see just how brutal life is in this mana mine. It is perfect fuel for the fire. The shopkeeper watches him with a smirk, noting Zayn knows too much for a kid his age who should be dead by now. Zayn plays it cool, claiming that at his age, you just get curious about how this cruel world actually works. But then the old man gets personal, asking how it felt being trapped inside that giant sandworm's disgusting gut. He sneers, telling Zayn he'll soon wish he had just ended up as worm bait back in the desert. This place isn't some playground where you just dig up easy treasure and leave. When Zayn mentions he's here for profit, the old man gestures to the shelves behind him. It's nothing but a pile of rusty garbage. Zayn calls him out for selling junk, but the old man says these are trophies he's gathered over the years. It's the final remains of every fool who thought they had a future here. Everyone starts by struggling, doing anything to avoid being tossed down into the dark mana mines. That's the reality of a mana crystal mine. Most workers see it as a guaranteed death sentence. They sell their belongings, even their own lives, just to buy a few more days of freedom from the pits. But you can't outrun fate. Eventually, everything they own slips away, until they're left with absolutely nothing at all. In the end, every single person who comes here meets the exact same fate. Legends leave names behind, but when trash dies, it just leaves more trash. He's curious what kind of junk Zayn will become. After listening to the old man's depressing rant for long enough, Zayn is over it. He just wants to pay his bill and get away from this miserable old bastard. But the old man demands 10 souls, claiming his trash is precious. Zayn thinks the guy has finally lost his mind. 10 souls for one skewer? That's not a price, it's straight up highway robbery. This guy is clearly trying to shake down the new kid, and Zayn isn't about to get extorted like this. As he tries to walk away, a group of armed thugs closes in. The owner asks if he finds this situation strange. How could an old man run a shop this openly in a lawless mine without some serious backup? Now watch closely, this is a trap Zayn never saw coming. He's surrounded like a lamb for the slaughter, while the old man stares him down. Realizing he's pinned, Zayn slams his fist down on the table in a rage. He forces himself to stay level-headed, arguing that he doesn't have that kind of money on him right now. 10 souls for a single snack is insane. The old man just smiles, saying he's not actually that heartless. He offers a trade instead. That mana crystal hiding in Zayn's pocket would cover the bill just fine. Zayn is stunned. He didn't think word about his secret loot would travel this fast. The old man promises a fair price if he hands it over, but Zayn went through literal hell for that crystal. There's no way he's giving it up. He tries to negotiate for some other way to settle this debt. Before he can even finish his sentence, a massive thug slams Zayn's head face first into the table. The goon is bored, telling the boss to just bury this kid already and stop wasting everyone's time. Suddenly, Zayn controls the sand, slicing the man's arm clean off in one brutal, lightning-fast strike. The severed limb hits the floor, and the terrified crowd immediately scrambles back in horror. Outnumbered, Zayn unleashes his sand power, sending razor-sharp blades through the floor to wipe out every enemy in the room. In that moment, he looks like a god of death, radiating a pressure that crushes everyone nearby. Okay, let's pause. That whole sequence? Yeah, just Zayn's wishful thinking. He isn't that strong in this world yet. The old man asks if he's alright, noticing Zayn has been spacing out like he's trapped in a nightmare. Under the heavy pressure of the shopkeeper's men, Zayn has no choice but to hand over his mana stone. After checking the size, the old man insults him by saying it's only worth 100 souls. Zayn is furious. That stone is a treasure and should be worth at least 300 souls. The old man just laughs. Resources are scarce here, and Zayn should have died back in the desert. The thug slams Zayn's head down again. Zayn's blood boils as pure killing intent surges through his chest. If the timing were right, he would have taken that old man's head off right then and there. Stick with me, we're about to see if Zayn can survive this. He reluctantly asks for a fair reward. Alright, stick with me because Zayn is about to learn that this world is crawling with dangerous pickpockets and thugs. Since this is our first deal, I'll be generous. Go over there and pick something. You can take any one item you want from here. But as Zayn started digging through the pile, he realized it was nothing but a stack of useless, dusty junk. Seeing how seriously he searched through all that garbage, the old man found the whole situation pretty amusing. That kind of stubbornness, refusing to miss even a single coin. I haven't seen that much life in a long time. Just then, an hourglass caught Zayn's eye. The sturdy old man mentioned it was just a relic left behind by an old caravan. Zayn stopped to think about it. He knew searching more would probably be a waste of time, so he decided to take the hourglass and leave. The old man actually praised him. You know, kid, you've got a real talent for picking through trash. Before leaving, the old man introduced himself as Crexy. That slippery bastard was someone Zayn never wanted to meet ever again. Once he got back to the dorms, Zayn immediately started inspecting his strange new find. But even with his ability, nothing special stood out. After looking it over for a long time, it just felt like an ordinary hourglass. And here he was, hoping it might actually be tied to his awakening somehow. He had definitely never seen it before, yet it gave off this incredibly strange sense of familiarity. It was almost like this hourglass had been waiting specifically for him. And when he held it in his hand, it felt like it was calling out. Now pay attention, because this is where the silence is shattered as a man kicks the door wide open and storms inside. You're the new brat who showed up today. Why aren't you down at the mine yet? Do I really have to drag you out myself? Zayn was speechless. Not a single person had actually told him where he was supposed to go. Before Zayn could even open his mouth, the man landed a punch that sent him flying. Then he pinned Zayn brutally to the ground and warned him not to talk back. A pathetic bug like you should stay down and shut your mouth. Zayn desperately suppressed the fury raging inside him because he knew this wasn't the time to expose his true self. But he would never forget this psycho's face. One day, no matter what, he was going to kill him. After that, the man tossed Zayn onto a mining cart, headed for the entrance of the third shaft. When they arrived, Park Min-ho shoved Zayn toward one of the veteran workers waiting underground. He warned Zayn that gear and food costs came out of his pay, and every mana stone found belonged to the house. You and I are about to see just how cruel this place is. Zayn asked about his pay, and Park Min-ho immediately smashed his helmet with a pickaxe. Do I need to swing this at your head a few more times before you learn the rules? The helmet cost is coming out of your pay too. Now, get this bastard into mineshaft 972. Don't even think about coming out until you find those stones, because I really will kill you. The guy's attitude was infuriating, but for now, Zayn had no choice but to endure it. Inside the work area, the foreman told Zayn he was cursed. He'd arrived right when Park Min-ho lost all his money. Zayn was surprised. There's a casino here too? The foreman replied that this place has everything, including a casino, just like Misol. He claimed the mine was safe because nobody had ever walked out of here with injuries. As the elevator carried them down toward shaft 972, Zayn asked a question. So all I do is mine the crystals and bring them back, right? I'll be done soon. The foreman just sighed. You won't be coming back. More than a dozen people have disappeared here, and no one knows if they're alive or dead. I knew 4 of them personally. Nobody knows what happened. Sorry for dumping you in a place nobody wants to touch. Thanks for taking the hit for us. This is a hellhole not even ghosts would step into. Watching those 4 men leave on the elevator, Zayn knew he was screwed. They never planned to let him leave this place alive. He never imagined his very first day on the job would end up being a death sentence. Thinking of that, Zayn swung the pickaxe in his hand in pure fury. Those bastards had thrown him in here just to die. But the ground was rock hard, and the pickaxe just bounced right back and flew away. It skipped across the stone floor a few times before vanishing into the darkness. With no other options, Zayn started walking toward where it fell. He'd been too angry to notice earlier. Trust me, you're going to want to see this. The mana here is so unbelievably dense that a normal person would already be dead from overload. Where was all this power coming from? Suddenly, Zayn spotted his lost pickaxe. Alright, you and I are about to see if his luck holds out, despite his gear being totally broken. But as he takes another step, a portal suddenly rips open under him. Zayn knows instantly something is wrong. Before he can even blink, it is already too late to react. Zayn wakes up to a world of fire. The ground is scorching, searing his skin and even burning his face. It hits him he must have accidentally stumbled into a dangerous dungeon. Otherwise, there is no way this place would be filled with so much lava and jagged cliffs. To check if he is dreaming, Zayn grabs a burning stone. The pain is real. He yanks his hand back and tosses it away. Damn, this is definitely not a dream. He is trapped here totally unprepared. That black grit on his hands? It is likely just toxic volcanic ash. It feels like burnt sand. If he stays, his lungs are toast. Zayn quickly rips a strip of fabric from his pants. Now watch this. He turns his pants into a life-saving mask. Step 1, find the exit. That massive mountain peak is the highest point around, making it his best bet for an escape. Standing still means death from the heat or ash. With no monsters around yet, this is his one golden window. He needs the fastest route possible. If he really wants to reach the top, he cannot afford to let this precious mana slip away. Zayn sprints full tilt, nearly diving headfirst into a bubbling lava pool. Luckily, he skids to a halt just in time, but the ground betrays him. The rock shatters, and suddenly, Zayn is dangling just inches above the liquid fire below. In a desperate lunge, his fingers catch the jagged ledge at the last second. He hauls himself up with every ounce of strength, gasping for air in the thick smoke. The only thing left in his heart is pure rage toward that bastard Park Manhwa. Once he gets out, that guy is absolutely dead. But he has to chill. Letting his emotions take over now will only cloud his focus and get him killed. Survival is the only option. He has to fight. Ahead of him, 4 lethal streams of lava block his path. 4 jumps, that is all it takes. He needs to move before the heat sucks every last drop of moisture from his body. Zayn stops overthinking it. He charges forward, aiming straight for the far side of the ledge. But you and I both knew this was coming. Watch closely. A massive crocodile monster erupts from the lava, opening its giant jaws to snap him out of the air. Zayn reacts instantly, using his clothes to manipulate the volcanic ash and anchor himself to the cliff. It is just like sand, but his strength is fading fast. The heat is too much, and he loses his grip, plummeting toward the floor. This dungeon is a nightmare. The environment is even more lethal than the monsters inside. The ash burns his nostrils with every breath. It feels like his insides are on fire. Even breathing is pure torture. It hits him he has never even been on a date. Dying here, alone and single, is just way too unfair. If he is going out, he is going out swinging. It is time to push his limits. The crocodile monster surges back up, bloody jaws snapping right in his face. But this time, Zayn isn't running. He prepares to unleash everything he has. But suddenly, a mysterious voice echoes from the sky above him. The voice calls his sand manipulation fascinating. Zayn looks up to see a white-haired old man floating down from above. In a flash, the old man drives a gargantuan sword straight through the monster's skull. The sheer impact of the blow shatters the ground beneath them. The shockwave slams into Zayn, leaving his ears ringing so loud he cannot hear anything but a buzz. He is stunned. This old man just split the beast in 2 with one hit. He is nothing like any other awakened Zayn knows. This guy is on a whole different level. The elder finishes the job and slowly walks toward Zayn. What is your name? I will count to 3. You better have an answer by then. The countdown finishes, and the old man is looming over him. But Zayn still can't hear a single word he says. His ears are throbbing from that explosion. The old man is pointing at him, clearly asking a question, but Zayn is stuck in total silence. Slowly, the world comes back to life. His hearing is finally starting to return. Too bad the old man is already reaching for his sword. He thinks Zayn is just ignoring him. Zayn panics and waves him off, shouting that his ears were just in too much pain to hear anything. He finally understands and answers, "My name is Zayn, and trust me, you and I are going to love what happens next." Let's watch this old man mock Zayn's name as pitiful before introducing himself as Theoden and walking past him. Before Zayn can even react, Theoden swings his heavy blade at the empty air in the far distance. The massive shockwave makes Zayn's ears ring again. He demands to know what the hell the old man is doing. Zayn even begins to wonder if Theoden is simply using that massive attack to threaten or intimidate him. He saved Zayn's life, but the boy had done nothing wrong. Theoden coldly explains he still hasn't realized it is a trap. Idiot. This is a rare phenomenon that happens when a dungeon becomes completely oversaturated with raw mana. To protect itself, the dungeon rips open a new rift and drags every nearby living creature straight into the abyss. That is the trap. Most people will never witness something as terrifying as this in their entire lives. Kid, your luck is absolute garbage. Hearing that, Zayn immediately thinks of that bastard Park Manhwa. This is all his fault. Theoden continues, telling the boy that he is now going to show him exactly why he called him an idiot. He twists Zayn's head toward the attack site. "Focus mana into your eyes and look again," the old man commands him. Now watch closely as Zayn finally senses the dangerous monster lurking in the far distance. A split Klumi. The sight stuns him. What on earth is that thing? Theoden begins to explain. It is a creature with perfect concealment. Plenty of people are eaten before they even know it exists, just like you. That monster had been standing right in front of him. Yet, Zayn hadn't sensed even the slightest hint of danger. If not for this mysterious old man, Zayn would have already ended up dead inside that monster's mouth. That is twice now that Theoden has saved his life. Zayn asks who he is and why he is so powerful, but the old man just scoffs, saying this dangerous dungeon is nothing more than his personal hunting ground. As for his true identity, Zayn will have to see that for himself. Theoden then draws the massive sword at his waist. He unleashes a devastating wave of sword energy that blasts toward the massive cliff right in front of them. The violent explosion and deafening noise make Zayn's ears throb again. He has no idea what this man is trying to do. But then, Zayn looks up and sees countless strange birds wrapped in flames circling the sky like vultures. Before he can even react, Theoden, who is already walking away, calls out one last time. "You idiot! If you have any value, survive this on your own." The moment he finishes, the flaming birds dive straight for Zayn. There are far too many of them to count, and their speed is absolutely insane. They are completely surrounding him, tearing fresh wounds into his skin every time they blur past at high speed. Zayn can barely find an opening. Strangely, he notices the creatures only seem to be attacking his left side. With no other choice, Zayn launches sand at them, but their speed is ridiculous, making them almost impossible to hit. Before long, the flaming birds strike again. At this point, Zayn's eyes can't keep up with their flight speed at all. Their movement paths look like thin, flickering threads that are impossible to track with normal human sight. You and I both know he can't die here, or he really would be the idiot the old man calls him. He must find a way to catch enemies his eyes can't follow, but the birds are already slashing him until blood runs everywhere. That is when he suddenly remembers the old man's advice. Focus the mind and gather mana into the eyes. Raise the purity of the mana. Do not look with your eyes. Sense everything through the energy itself. The moment Zayn opens his eyes, the chaotic movement paths of the flaming birds finally become clear. In an instant, he fires sand toward their attack direction. He is no longer relying on his physical vision. He is sensing everything purely through his internal mana. Whenever a bird approaches, he can counterattack in a split second. It is an unbelievable way to fight. Zayn wonders if the old man had already predicted this would happen. Meanwhile, Theoden is busy slaughtering giant crocodiles. He mutters that he is actually starting to feel excited. It has been a long time since he felt this thrill. He cleaves a giant crocodile and sends it into the lava. Judging by the look on his face, these monsters still aren't enough to satisfy his hunger for battle. A short while later, he slaughters every monster surrounding him. How disappointing. He sighs. I had only just started warming up. Is there really no dungeon out there that can make me take it seriously? Watching the old man's godlike strength, Zayn is in disbelief while finishing off the last birds around him. Stick around. Compared to the old man, Zayn's victory looks absolutely pathetic. You and I are about to witness one terrifying, soul-piercing roar. The pure pressure has Zayn coughing blood and collapsing. When he asks what it is, Theoden calmly explains that it is probably just the dungeon boss letting out a little scream. Every dungeon has a final boss that acts as its core, and that is exactly why we are here. As he says that, a wild, excited look takes over Theoden's face. But for Zayn, the crimson dragon crawling out of the lava feels like pure death. While he is frozen in fear, Theoden just shrugs and says it is only a B rank. If it is a B rank, That means this massive crimson dragon has a force field. Theoden is shocked. Zayn even knows about those. Zayn just brushes it off, saying he heard some rumors. High-rank monsters have unique traits, just like awakened humans. A red force field usually means we are dealing with a pure combat type. As for a boss like this, it should definitely be a blue magic type. The second he says that, the dragon spits a massive ice crystal right at them. Zayn panics and tries to block, but it is no use. The dragon's attack is moving way too fast for him to even react in time. At the last second, Theoden leaps up and unleashes a devastating cross slash. That magic attack is wiped out instantly, leaving Zayn completely speechless as he watches from the sidelines. Zayn's instincts are screaming. This old man just shattered everything he thought he knew about real power. Next, Theoden teleports in and smashes a heavy blow into the dragon's head. But this beast is not some ordinary monster. It bats away Theoden's next strike with one arm. In that same heartbeat, it actually manages to snatch him in its claws. Suddenly, a terrifying wave of magic power begins swirling inside the dragon's mouth. Watch this instead of panicking. Theoden just gives a crazy grin. He claps his hands together and literally stuffs that magic attack back down its throat. After breaking free, Theoden dives into a brutal, high-speed duel with the dragon. The overwhelming force is literally shaking the ground. Zayn realizes right away that he is in serious trouble. If this keeps up, those shockwaves alone are going to kill him. He needs to move and find somewhere safe to hide, fast. As he runs, a massive shockwave from the battle comes crashing toward his back. With no other choice, Zayn desperately pulls sand together. He builds a shield and struggles to hold it, but the sheer force is just too much to handle. If the shockwaves are this deadly, he cannot even imagine the carnage at the center of the fight. Meanwhile, Theoden is in a state of pure battle trance as he trades blows with the beast. He is actually riding the dragon's head, shouting that this whole thing feels like a damn amusement park. Then, he slams the dragon's massive body into the ground, causing fountains of lava to burst into the air. Seeing the ground shatter, Zayn knows he is done for. If his footing gives way, he is falling straight into the fire. Before he can move, another massive blast sends him flying through the air. The force sends Zayn tumbling across the jagged earth, his body completely out of his own control. Now, you and I both know that if he hits that burning lava, it is game over for him. Theoden is still locked in combat and cannot help. At the critical moment, Zayn slaps himself across the face to force his mind back into the game. He pushes his powers to the absolute limit and gathers every grain of sand he can. Finally, he manages to land on a sand platform, barely escaping the lava's deadly embrace. On the other side, the fight has reached its absolute peak. By now, the mighty Crimson Dragon has been beaten into the dirt. Theoden stands over it, mocking the beast. But then, a massive surge of mana starts building deep in its throat. Theoden just laughs and asks if this is finally its ultimate move. A second later, a beam of mana tears through the earth, locking onto Theoden and swallowing him whole. But once the smoke clears, the dragon realizes its target has completely vanished. Suddenly, Theoden's voice echoes from above. He asks what it was looking for, right before plunging a massive sword into its back. That overwhelming power makes the dragon let out a final, agonizing scream. Theoden says coldly that he has been hunting this thing for a year. He spent all that time clearing this desert just to take its heart for his sword. Right then, the massive black blade in his hand begins feasting on the dragon's raw power. Within seconds, the dark blade starts glowing and shifts from black to red. And trust me, you and I just watched that sword rebuild itself into something far more dangerous. First off, let's watch as Theoden rips his blade from the dragon's corpse, feeling that raw power surge. An excited grin spreads across his face. My old partner, you've grown even more lethal than before. Just then, Zayn's voice echoes from behind. He's talking to a sword? Old man, have you finally lost it? But you actually killed a dragon. You're one terrifying, legendary old geezer. Seeing Zayn standing there alive, Theoden actually looks a bit shocked by the sight. He honestly didn't think the kid could survive the massive shockwaves from that insane fight. Zayn explains how he managed to dodge death. I kept getting tossed around by the shockwaves from a certain crazy old man's battle. Luckily, my instincts kicked in, and my improved reaction speed saved my life by a hair. Hearing that, Theoden scoffs. Did not expect a brat like you to have any skill. The boss is dead, so this dungeon is about to collapse. We need to move fast. Zayn's confused. Wait, if we're leaving, why are you grabbing me? Before he can finish, Theoden snatches him and tosses him headfirst into the glowing portal behind them. Pay attention here. Zayn is terrified, having no clue what the old man is doing until he lands in a scorching desert. Turns out, they actually made it back to the surface. That portal was the only way out of that collapsing dungeon. Right then, Theoden looks at him. Listen, brat, I need your sand manipulation, but you're too pathetic to be useful right now. Keep walking this road and you'll reach New Soul. You want to go back to your boring life? Or follow me and become someone truly powerful? Zayn is totally caught off guard. If I follow you, how long will it take? Theoden shrugs. Maybe months, maybe years. I have no idea. I'll only know once we arrive. So, give me your answer right now. Go back to your safe, comfortable routine, or gamble everything on a wild adventure where you'll probably die. Faced with that choice, Zayn just laughs. Old man, are you nuts? You want me to leave safety and wander into this burning desert wasteland with you instead? Theoden's eyes turn dead serious. Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. Fine. Then let's do it. We are going together. When someone pisses me off, I have to settle the score eventually. Right now, I'm too weak for payback. And just so you know, you're at the top of my hit list. You're the strongest person I've ever seen. Honestly, I doubt I'll ever meet anyone more monstrous than you. Hearing that, Theoden lets out a laugh. Aren't you afraid following me will be your death sentence? Become the strongest? Maybe. But trust me, you and I are probably going to see him regret this choice one day. Since you've decided, start walking, idiot. They still have a long path. 6 hours pass by instantly. Dragging himself behind Theoden, the heat is roasting Zayn until he feels like he's about to drop dead. He begs Theoden to let him rest for a second, or he's seriously not going to make it another mile. But Theoden doesn't care, and just keeps marching forward. It's driving Zayn absolutely insane. To make it worse, the dry, brutal heat is making his entire body feel like it's on fire. It is over 120 degrees by now. At this rate, heat stroke or total dehydration will kill him. Plus, every step into the soft sand feels like his legs are made of lead. Suddenly, Theoden speaks up without looking back. You really are useless. You can't even use 1% of your power. You literally control sand, yet you can barely walk on it. It's pathetic. Zayn immediately snaps back. Easy for you to say. I just got this ability a few days ago and I'm only an F-class hunter, not some freak of nature like you. The moment Zayn finishes, Theoden whips around, eyes full of rage. Stop talking that absolute trash. Who cares about being F-class or S-class? You think people are just born elite? Even if they are, that's just pure luck. Are you really going to quit just because the gods didn't hand you everything first? Compared to normal people, you've already been given way more than enough. Stop whining and figure out your power. If your head is just full of garbage, then why are you even still alive? This is your gift. That means you're the one who has to learn how to break your limits and evolve your skills. You have to find the way yourself. Theoden looks ready to throw hands again. After a bit, Zayn finally calms down and tries to sense the raw energy flowing inside his tired body. His sand control range is only about 5 meters, which honestly feels pretty short right now. But the ability still has potential, because every single step he takes makes his feet sink in. Trust me, you and I are about to see if he can compress and harden that sand to save his life. Alright, let's dive back in as Zayn tries to master a power that's literally draining him dry. Walking was easier, but it burned through mana like crazy. He wondered if focusing energy into his legs would make moving more efficient for him. Walking ahead, Theoden couldn't help but sigh, thinking about how wonderful it was to be young. To the old man, that relentless spirit and refusal to give up was the true definition of youth. Zayn was technically F-class in raw power, but his control was already pushing toward E or even D-class levels. It didn't take long for Zayn to succeed, finally getting a real handle on controlling the sand. Excited, he ran up to Theoden to brag. He'd figured out how to control just the sand touching his soles to make walking easier. You can't do this, can you, old man? I've totally adapted. So, what are you going to do now? Now pay attention, Theoden isn't having any of it. He slams a heavy fist into Zayn's head for being such an annoying brat. Wasting energy like that gets you killed. We're on the clock, so move. I'm not waiting for you. By the time Zayn opened his eyes, night had fallen. Theoden just called him an idiot for passing out. The old man was sick of dragging him around, but Zayn just groaned, covered in wounds and feeling helpless. He didn't pass out on purpose. Theoden just told him to eat while he still had the chance. He promised a story from his youth. Back then, being weak wasn't an automatic death sentence. Survival wasn't a constant, brutal struggle against every other person you met. Protecting the weak used to be considered noble. Can you even imagine that? But as you know, the world has changed since then. For Zayn, this brutal world was all he knew. But for Theoden, it was something he'd never accept. Either stay there and die, or find the strength to stand up. Zayn had absolutely no choice but to force his battered body to sit up. When he finally got up, he saw Theoden sitting just a short distance away. Zayn knew the old man had lived a long time, but the reality finally hit him. Just how many decades of memories and experience was this man actually carrying? Theoden was still gnawing on that piece of smoked jerky, but he wasn't just chewing. He was using saliva to soften it first. In a dry desert, that was the only way to actually eat. Zayn finally realized why he couldn't bite it. The old man wasn't just giving him a meal, he was teaching him how to survive the wasteland. Thinking about the old man's lessons, Zayn realized he'd never actually seen a real fish in his life. As the weather shifted, the air turned bitter. Zayn felt the temperature dropping rapidly as night took over. He'd forgotten how freezing desert nights got. Plus, that crazy old man was wide awake, talking to his sword all night long. Zayn eventually asked if there was any water nearby. He was desperately dehydrated. But Theoden just kept drinking on his own, completely ignoring the kid's struggle for a single drop. It turns out Theoden was drinking dew from his clothes. He'd spread them out while sleeping for that exact reason. Zayn gritted his teeth. That old man was definitely going to pay for this. Once he got stronger, he'd give him a beating. Suddenly, Theoden asked if he felt something coming. Zayn looked around immediately. The vibrations coming through the ground belonged to much more than just a single creature. Trust me, this is where it gets intense. They were already surrounded by a pack of great horned hyenas. They're nocturnal hunters, and they'd been tracking us since early morning, Theoden noted with a cold look. Can an idiot like you handle them? Or do you need me to save you again? Without a single word, Zayn fired a blast of quicksand, knocking one of the massive horned hyenas right off its feet. Zayn wasn't looking for help. This was the perfect moment to sharpen his skills and prove he could survive on his own. If he wanted to survive, he had to evolve through combat. He gathered sand at his fingertips, ready for the next strike. His range was too small, though. He could only take them down one at a time. But a new idea was forming in his mind. As they closed in, he spread the sand out for a wide area attack. There were just too many of the beasts. His mana was hitting the red zone much faster than he expected. He was going to die of exhaustion before the beasts even got to eat him. Power wasn't the answer. He needed efficiency. He had to manage his mana or he was done for. But how do you fight without burning energy? Suddenly, a hyena lunged and sank its teeth into his arm. The pain was blinding. Zayn threw the beast off with one desperate, violent motion. And yeah, you and I can see this is bad. Deep, bloody gashes covered his arm as his life leaked out onto the hot desert sand. Stick with me, we're watching Zayn get swarmed by a pack of literal, crazed hyenas. Staring at the bloody holes in his own arm, Zayn suddenly has an epiphany. Maybe he doesn't need a massive, flashy attack at all. What if he just controlled a tiny bit of quicksand to punch lethal holes right through their skulls? A second later, Zayn blasts sand up from the ground, driving it straight into the hyenas' heads. With one simple hand motion, he drops several beasts, and the results send a massive thrill through him. This is the real way to fight. Use the least mana possible to deal the most devastating damage. Zayn looks over at Theoden, wondering why the old man's combat style is the total opposite of his. Just then, a hyena bites into Theoden's shoulder, but the old guy acts like it's nothing but a flea. Suddenly, the beast's teeth shatter against his skin. Theoden grabs his massive sword and asks if they should let a biting dog live. Time to end this. A wild grin spreads across his face as a terrifying light flashes in his eyes. Zayn can only watch in total shock. What on earth is this old man planning to do now? Theoden's face lights up with that same brand of pure, mad excitement he only shows during the hunt. A massive sword flash sweeps across the desert, sending a violent shockwave blasting out in every single direction. Zayn barely raises a sand shield to block the blast. When the smoke clears, his expression is beyond complicated. This crazy old man is the type who might accidentally kill his own teammates once he gets going. A deep scar is carved into the earth, and every last hyena has been turned into nothing but ash. Zayn wonders if this guy is even human. He definitely needs to keep a lower profile around him. One hyena collapses right in front of Theoden. The old man realizes he's looking at the hyena queen. Suddenly, the queen condenses a blade made of pure mana. Even Theoden looks a little bit surprised. This beast is at least B rank. The queen's energy surges as she launches a high-speed mana/forward. Seeing the danger, Zayn screams for the old man to be careful. Now watch this. Theoden casually reaches out and catches the attack with his bare hand. Zayn's brain literally stops. Turns out, worrying about him was a total waste of time. Theoden even says that tingling feeling felt great. It actually loosened up his stiff shoulder. The massage is over, and now, it's time for her to go. In a heartbeat, Theoden's fist pressure slams into the queen, splattering her blood all over Zayn. Seriously? He was actually worried about Theoden, but this old guy is basically a walking monster. Zayn skins one of the carcasses and drapes the hide over his shoulders. Looks like they're all finished here. They should get moving. But Theoden stops to grab the queen's horn, calling it a very useful item. These horns carry lightning properties. If they refine it right, it could actually become a pretty decent weapon. Theoden tosses Zayn a dagger and tells him to find his own food from now on. No more charity. Most of the hyena is poisonous, but the flank meat is safe. He cuts a piece and starts eating. The sun begins to rise over the horizon, signaling that it's time for them to head out again. Zayn chews on some jerky, feeling good. Today's journey is already looking much easier than yesterday's. You and I can see Zayn's getting smug. With his new sandwalking skill, moving across the desert isn't even exhausting anymore. He can't help teasing the old man, asking if he's tired or if he's pushing himself too hard. Theoden swings a punch, but Zayn dodges easily and makes a face. He's really pushing his luck here. A second later, Theoden's massive sword smacks him right across the forehead. Theoden thinks the kid has lost his mind. His own feet are killing him from this endless desert heat, and this brat acts superior over one lousy skill. Zayn just climbs back up and sticks his tongue out. He claims he was just joking, but the old man has already fixed his eyes on something ahead. Zayn looks at him, totally confused. What is the old man staring at in this wasteland? Somewhere in the distance, a faint scent of moisture drifts over the dunes. They keep moving forward. The scene ahead fills Zayn with pure joy. A small pool of water has finally appeared before them. In the desert, a little water is the difference between life and death. Zayn rushes down toward it, but stick with me. Theoden stays back with a very grave look on his face. Alright, let's dive into Zayn's journey as he finally hits the bottom of this massive sand pit, soaking his head in water that feels way too good to be true. This brutal desert heat had every single pore on his body begging for a drop of moisture. But suddenly, a glowing light begins to pulse beneath the waves. Before he can even react, an overwhelming drowsiness starts pulling Zayn deep into a trance. Suddenly, a sharp shout snaps him back to reality. Wake up, you complete moron. Theoden is already charging toward him at full tilt, because right now, Zayn is a sitting duck above that water. Now watch this beneath the surface. A monster is unhinging its massive jaws. In a flash, Theoden lunges and snatches Zayn by his collar. The beast erupts from the depths just as they clear the area. Zayn hits the sand, his heart hammering against his ribs. He was nearly lunch. No time to rest, though Theoden is already diving back into the fight. With one massive, earth-shaking swing of his sword, he slams the creature right back into the watery depths. The impact sends a massive spray of water flying everywhere. For a second, it is like actual rain is finally falling in this wasteland. A faint rainbow even shimmers in the sky. Theoden drags the dead monster out and tosses it toward Zayn like trash. This thing is a sandal. It uses that forehead light to lure prey before swallowing them whole in one bite. Theoden goes quiet for a second before winding up and punching Zayn square in the jaw. What the hell is wrong with you, you idiot? Did you think you were some hotshot just because you survived a few days? Theoden looks absolutely livid. A fool like you isn't worth saving. Maybe I should have just left you to rot out here in the dunes. After the lecture, he turns away. Skin that sand eel. It is a C-rank beast with soft belly skin. Peel it off and sew yourself a robe. Zayn just stares at him, confused. A robe? Why the heck do I need a robe? Theoden snaps. It is not for me, you moron. It is for you. Is your brain actually melting in this sun? Zayn looks at the massive carcass stretched across the sand. So, this is what a fish actually looks like. It is his first time seeing one, and he did not expect them to be this terrifying. He stabs his dagger in, but the hide is incredibly tough. Theoden just scoffs from the sidelines. What are you doing? Are you trying to tickle the thing? At this rate, you will give the fish a massage instead of skinning it. Still, the leather is way stronger than Zayn anticipated. He stops and focuses, channeling his mana directly into the edge of the blade. The mana-coated edge finally slices through like butter. He then carves out some fish bones to use as makeshift sewing needles. He pulls out some tendons for thread, and you and I can see that spark of inspiration hitting him. Is this genius at work? But reality hits hard. The finished product looks like a total disaster, hideous and barely holding together. After a dozen more tries, he finally nails it. But then Theoden pulls a massive gallbladder out of the eel's gut. He marches over, holding the slimy organ out. Hey, idiot, open up and eat this whole thing right now. This gallbladder is a rare medicinal treasure. Do not waste a drop, shove it all in your mouth, hurry up. Looking at the giant, pulsating organ, Zayn breaks into a cold sweat. Before he can protest, Theoden drops the slimy mess right into his hands. It feels absolutely revolting, but he knows he cannot exactly say no to his powerful mentor. Knowing it is precious medicine, he grits his teeth and starts devouring the thing like a man possessed by hunger. It is disgusting, sure, but definitely better than slowly starving to death in this empty wasteland. Weirdly, no matter how much he swallows, he does not feel full. The texture is strangely light, almost like eating weird cotton candy. Theoden watches him, smirking. Wow, look at you go. You are actually eating that pretty fast, kid. Meanwhile, the old man happily munches on grilled fish meat, clearly knowing exactly what is about to happen next. Zayn remains clueless. Suddenly, a violent fire erupts in Zayn's chest. It feels like invisible hands are crushing his throat, making every breath a desperate struggle. What is happening to him? His insides are boiling, and mana is surging through his veins like a rampaging flood. His power is spiraling out of control. Theoden just watches the agony and says, "Just endure it. It will pass eventually." He starts rambling to himself. Everything in this world is just like a fleeting oasis in the dunes. In time, it all vanishes with the shifting sands. Life moves in endless, unchanging cycles. Behind him, Zayn is writhing in pure agony. "You crazy old man, Stop the poetry and save me. Theoden just throws a cold glance over his shoulder. Keep it down over there. I am going to sleep. Night blankets the desert under a sea of stars. After a long night of pure torment, Zayn's eyes finally flutter open again. And trust me, you and I wouldn't want to wake up to Theoden's face inches away from ours. Scared him half to death. Alright, you and I are about to watch a weakling become a beast in the middle of a desert hell. How does your body feel now? Zayn was completely dazed because that agonizing burning pain had vanished. He clenched his fist tight and felt a sensation he had never experienced in his life. His body was light, his muscles were tight, and his internal mana was incredibly dense. With just one slight exertion of strength, the surrounding sand scattered into the air. Zayn froze. He had actually gotten stronger, way stronger. Theoden stepped forward and casually explained it was the effect of the gallbladder. In this desert, that thing is a priceless treasure. It gives you the power to survive the sun and sandstorms. Zayn stood there, totally stunned. He couldn't believe something that valuable was just given away. Theoden scoffed, calling him pathetically weak. I'm dragging you around, so at least don't be a burden. Zayn scrambled after him, promising to be reliable. Trust me, I've got this. Under the scorching sun, time slowly began to crawl by. Theoden stayed by that sand eel skeleton until he finished every last bite. His appetite was truly monstrous. Suddenly, he turned around and started walking. All right, kid. Time to move out. Watching the old man's back, Zayn smiled. He rushed forward and gave a serious, yes, sir. Harsh weather struck again as a massive sandstorm engulfed the desert. Zayn just chewed his jerky, since this level of chaos felt totally normal by now. Watching Theoden walk ahead, Zayn was convinced this old guy was nothing short of a monster. He just kept moving without a single stop. The man didn't seem to need any rest at all. Plus, the guy hadn't said a word in days. So boring. Zayn finally asked if he even knew where they were going. Now pay attention, because things are about to go from 0 to 100 real fast. But Zayn didn't even turn around. A sharp spike of sand shot out and pierced the ant's skull. A second later, Zayn looked back and frowned. The thing was still alive and making an eerie hissing sound. Within his sensing range, he could tell there were way more demon ants crawling nearby. He pressed his hand to the ground and coldly told them to show themselves. In an instant, he slammed his palm down hard. Right on cue, the demon ants all revealed themselves in a circle around him. Zayn stayed calm and simply flicked a finger. In a flash, the ants were shredded by the sand, but when he looked back, Theoden was already way off in the distance. Zayn groaned, begging the old man to wait. Since he was ignored, he had to hurry after him. But right in that moment, he sensed something strange. A terrifying presence emerged. Suddenly, a massive swarm of demon ants rushed him from every single direction. Zayn was shocked. Where the hell did all these monsters even come from? He shouted that there were too many, but Theoden just stood there watching without moving a muscle. You and I saw this coming, the old man isn't helping. It's all on Zayn now. The sand quickly condensed into sharp spears, one after another. Zayn stood his ground. Then, all the sand around him shot forward in a violent, explosive burst. Despite the attack, one ant managed to leap onto him. Zayn dodged wildly, cursing at the persistent creature. Just how many of these things are there? You bastards have no shame jumping one person like this. Can't you fight one-on-one? But the demon ants didn't care about rules. They just saw a meal. Within a single breath, the entire swarm completely buried him under a mountain of carapaces. Dust filled the air as the eerie sound of skittering and buzzing echoed through the haze. Then, suddenly, Zayn burst out of the dust. Suspended in midair, he looked absolutely panicked. He must have stepped right into their nest. He shot upward, hoping they couldn't fly. But right then, another demon ant appeared right beside him. Below him, the ants gathered into a massive black sphere. Zayn was shocked by the sight. Are you kidding me? They can do that too? Then, an ant bit his foot. They linked their bodies into a whip and slammed him into the ground, making him cough blood. Trust me, you and I must see if Zayn survives this in the next part. You and I are watching Theoden just sit there like a mountain, clearly having zero intention of helping out. But in the next second, Zayn actually smiles. You better watch closely, because he's about to show us how to survive. Watching the kid fight, Theoden starts thinking. In this wasteland of a world, a power like Zayn's is nothing short of a gift from the heavens. But if he just used that strength for a life of luxury, then honestly, everything would be over. Those short-sighted fools had no clue why the world had even fallen into this state to begin with. The Awakened should be masters of their own craft, not some mass-produced soldiers spit out by an assembly line. Amid the swirling sand, Theoden's mind drifts back to the distant past. 100 years ago, during that tragedy, he was totally powerless. He watched so many people die for absolutely nothing. Friends, family, even his own daughter were gone. He was a fool back then, forced to watch helplessly as everyone he loved vanished. But Zayn is built different. This kid is truly unique. and his potential is actually off the charts. So dive into the fire and cross that line between life and death. Theoden smiles. He knows that in the end, Zayn will come out even stronger, just like him. Meanwhile, Zayn is fighting like a total madman. Pay attention, because he's about to end these bastards once and for all. Meet his new skill, Ultra High Density Sand Missile. It is simple, brutal, and the effect is absolutely terrifying. By compressing gravity, wind, and every drop of his mana into a single point, the power jumps 10 times over. Zayn looks completely wild now, with pure killing intent surging in his eyes. It is over for you, pests. Since you couldn't kill me, I'm taking all of you down. Watching nearby, Theoden just grins. Looks like the kid is finally fired up. When the dust settles, the sand is littered with deep, massive craters. A surge of pride hits him hard. Honestly, this feeling of power is absolutely incredible. But then, out of nowhere, a dark shadow flashes right past him. A massive creature, way bigger than those demon ants, clamps down on him. Zayn grabs the pincers with all his strength, totally shocked. Somehow, this thing sneaked up silently, right inside his own sensing range. Even worse, its poison is suppressing his mana. Zayn lets out a roar at the top of his lungs. You think this can stop me? But in the blink of an eye, the beast vanishes into the dark at terrifying speed. Later, Zayn slowly wakes up in a dim underground nest, completely surrounded on all sides by a swarm of demon ants. A white worm crawls toward him. He looks up and realizes these things are actually demon ant larvae. One starts eating into his arm, but the poison from that earlier ant has him completely paralyzed. He is totally unable to move. If this keeps up, he is getting eaten alive. Slowly, his vision starts to fade to black. So this is it? I know what you're thinking. There's no way his miserable life ends like this. Suddenly, his strength returns. He smashes a larva with one punch and manages to stand back up, refusing to die here. With crazed eyes, he refuses to go. His life was trash, and dying here would be way too unfair. Suddenly, his rank insignia glows with a second stripe. A massive wave of sand energy explodes, sweeping through every corner of the nest. High-density sand missiles gather around Zayn and then blast out in every single direction. He looks at his arm, totally confused. Since he leveled up, the poison is completely gone. His body is overflowing with mana now. But right then, a massive figure appears and charges straight for him with insane force. The impact sends Zayn flying, but he immediately fires off dozens of sand missiles in return. Every missile detonates right against the beast. Zayn looks at the smoke and curses under his breath. Damn it, not even a scratch. This monster is ridiculous. Standard attacks are not doing anything to it. He needs a way through that armor. Zayn reaches out his hand. Maybe trying to break it is not the right move. Maybe he should just peel it off instead. Slowly, the sand beneath the monster begins to rise. Under his command, the sand surges up, forming a massive, violent sandstorm around the beast. Energy gathers in his hand as he vows to twist that armor right off. The beast lets out a strange cry as sand churns around it. Suddenly, it spits out a glowing ball of energy that releases a sharp, piercing sound wave through the entire area. When the sound wave hits, Zayn twists in pure agony. What the hell is this thing? Blood bursts from his ears. Trust me, you and I are about to see if his head can even take this. Stick with me, you and I are about to watch Zayn push his mana to the limit against a monster's secret move. Blood starts pouring from Zayn's eyes, but he's not backing down. It's a battle of pure endurance now. In a sudden explosion of mana, Zayn gathers everything into his palms, going way beyond his normal limits. Suddenly, everything goes black. Blood sprays from his nose and mouth as his strength completely vanishes in an instant. Zayn collapses, thinking this is the end, but just then, a pair of massive hands catch him before he hits the ground. Theoden looks gentle, but his words are sharp. You're pathetic and weak, little idiot. Napping here will get you killed. Zayn manages a weak smile, using the last of his strength. You stole my kill again, old man. Theoden just smiles back, calling him a disrespectful little brat. He admits Zayn actually has some use, finally telling the kid he did a damn good job. Theoden had already decapitated the demon ant, resting his massive blade against the monster's cold, dead corpse. Zayn collapses, muttering that he can't hear a single word the old man is saying right now. His eardrums are completely blown out. Without a word, Theoden just scoops the kid up and starts walking. He approaches a glowing orb the monster spat out earlier and tosses Zayn right onto the ground beside it. Zayn points at the strange, glowing object and asks the old man what it even is. Theoden activates some instructions on the wall. This is a queen's egg now, shut up and eat it. Apparently, it tastes like strawberry. Zayn asks nervously if this thing is going to hurt him like before. Theoden looks away. If you eat this, there's a chance you'll die. Now here's the part you've got to see. Zayn can't hear him and bites right into that magic egg. But an instant later, absolute, unbearable agony hits him. Spikes burst from his skin as his organs literally twist and flip inside out. It's called organ reversal. That queen ant egg is pure poison. Just a tiny bit can turn a human's insides completely backward. Zayn drops to the floor, screaming in pain, with no idea what's happening to his body. Why did you make me eat this? Theoden just scratches his ear and tells him to be quiet. He says survival requires getting used to pain, but then, a massive surge of energy explodes inside Zayn. Blood sprays from his mouth, painting the ground. Zayn feels death approaching. Let's be real, you'd feel betrayed too if your only ally just poisoned you. Every bit of strength leaves his body as he hits the floor. Theoden stays stone-faced, walking calmly toward the dead body of the demon ant. He shoves his hand deep into the creature's skull, digging around until he finally pulls something out. He smiles at the core in his hand. This one is way better than anything from the mines. Absolute jackpot. This monster was actually useful. He packs the core away and prepares to move out. Finished with his loot, he looks at Zayn with a helpless expression. He knew this would happen. In this world, the weak just die, that is their fate. They're running out of time. Much later, Zayn finally wakes up, shocked to find that he is actually alive. How is he still breathing? Suddenly, the old man's massive face leans right into his vision. Hey, idiot. Instantly, a massive violet storm erupts right there in the middle of the cave. Theoden yells at him for kicking up dust, but his face quickly darkens when he sees the truth. Zayn is back on his feet, summoning dozens of sandrock missiles to hover right in front of him. A second later, those missiles explode all around the old man's position. Zayn's voice echoes, demanding to know why the old man tried to kill him just now. He's not forgiving him this time. Sand and stone swirl toward the stalactites on the cave ceiling. Those massive stalactites are sliced to pieces by sharp, spinning blades of sand. Zayn unleashes his full power. As the smoke clears, he wonders if he actually managed to finish him. But the old man's voice rings out. You total idiot, what the hell are you doing? Theoden stares him down. That egg's power could have burned him alive. So what do you and I make of this? Kid's a lucky idiot. Alright, you and I are about to dive into a wild training session. Zayn stands there frozen, cold sweat dripping as every attack he threw did absolutely nothing to the old man. Theoden just stares him down. One punch is all it would take to end you, he growls. Why would I bother with poison? He explains that the magic egg's venom might eat at your organs, but it's doing something far more important. It's flushing out every impurity in your system, clearing the path for raw mana to flood your entire body. Can't you feel the power? Now, watch this. Zayn realizes his mana hasn't just grown, it has actually quadrupled in size. The realization hits him like a truck. Without hesitation, he lunges forward and throws his arms around the old man. I'm so sorry for doubting you, he cries out. I must have lost my mind. Theoden just sighs and tells him, good. At least you get it now. Now get off me. This emotional clinging is making me sick. But Zayn won't budge. No way. My poor heart has suffered way too much emotional trauma today. Secretly, Zayn lets out a massive breath of relief. He knew if he hadn't pulled this dramatic act, the old man would have beaten him half to death right there. Theoden clenches his fist, knowing the kid only survived because his body is built different. He's not normal. But he needs to get even stronger, and fast. If not, they've got zero chance in the war that's coming. Enough talk. Theoden tucks the brat under his arm like a sack of potatoes and says, time to move. Zayn can only watch helplessly. This old man just picks him up like a rag doll whenever he feels like it. Time's up. Theoden points toward the sky. Trust me, you and I have never seen a shortcut like this. Suddenly, the desert floor erupts. A massive surge of energy blasts them straight through the ground and high into the air. Theoden lets out a wild laugh. See? Isn't this way faster? Zayn, meanwhile, is having the most miserable time of his life. Fast my ass, he screams. Can't you just travel like a normal human being for once in your life? You slept for 4 whole days and you're still this weak? At this rate, you're as good as dead. Suddenly, the laughter stops. When a guy like Theoden gets this serious, you know something massive is coming. Zayn can only stare in horror. Theoden grabs Zayn and leaps away just as a massive shadow looms over the spot they were standing. Zayn's jaw drops. What is that thing? How can anything be that big? They hit the ground and look up. These guys really won't give us a single second to breathe, will they? That's the mobile fortress Alkalon. It's a B-rank monster, but its defense is higher than even an A-rank beast. They turned a giant turtle shell into a reinforced war machine. Zayn is completely speechless at the sheer scale of it. People are actually living on that monster. Standing by its feet, Zayn feels like a tiny ant compared to this titan. The turtle lowers its mountain-sized head, staring down at them with cold, ancient eyes. But then, a figure appears. Someone is standing right on top of that massive shell. The figure drops down. You and I are about to witness a legendary reunion that's been years in the making. At first I wasn't sure, but it really is you. Another old man stands before them, adjusting his glasses with a calm, steady hand. Long time, Theoden.